Hey, happy Monday, happy Monday. How are you? Having a late afternoon cup of coffee. So you know how I get on some of my coffee breaks. I get the urge to share, to talk out loud, mostly remind myself of things I need to be reminded of and just make it an open conversation for anybody who wishes to tune in. I hope you're having a good week. I hope you had a great weekend. Today, I want to remind myself about the knowledge is power myth, about the knowledge is power myth. You know, it's like a cliche. We hear it all the time and we get the spirit of what it means, but I think indirectly, we start to take that statement as fact. And when we start to take that statement as fact, it can become very non-supportive of you making progress. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I see it quite often. And what made me think to share this today is a few conversations I've had in the last week. I saw it, identified, and then I started to look at some of the things I've been doing in the last week. And they said, and I had to talk to myself. I had to say, self? You know what you need to remember is this knowledge is power myth. This knowledge is power myth. So many of us has been taught by people that really care for us in many cases in an effort to motivate us, to inspire us to go out there and increase our body of knowledge, increase what we know, learn, get educated, self-educate. All of these are wonderful and powerful things that I wholeheartedly support. But I do not want to confuse, and I challenge myself, remember, because mostly I'm talking to myself and just inviting you into the one-on-one conversation so I don't seem too crazy. But I need to remind myself of this stuff as well. And I need to remind myself that knowledge is not power. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. Applied knowledge is power. When you look up the definition of power, most of the definitions of power are wrapped around or closely associated with movement, with action, with activity. That's how power is recognized, is measured. But knowledge in and of itself is not action. Knowledge in and of itself is not movement. What you know is potentially powerful, but it's not powerful unto itself. And the story I like to tell, an example I like to give, and I've given for many, many years, is that you imagine you're in your house and you're in front of your bookshelf, and on your bookshelf you have all the books on firefighting, every angle, every technique, every method for fighting a fire. You have books, you have audiobooks, you have videotapes, you have recorded seminars, you have this huge library of firefighting skills, and you're sitting there on your couch looking at this big bookshelf, and your house catches on fire. Unless you get up and get something like water, your house is going to burn down in spite of the knowledge that you both have in your head and available to you. Unless you take action, your house will burn down. Knowledge by itself is just not power. So think about this. We all get wrapped up in the ability, and I find myself doing it as well, right? So I find a lot of people that have this great goal, but then they start to get educated, and then 95% of their time is focused and dedicated to the accumulation of more information, research. And I get that. You want to do things, you want a good data-driven foundation. You want to do some research. But the real learning and the real progress comes in action. In fact, there's a deficit that happens the minute we start to really fall into this hypnotic, if you will, this hypnosis of knowledge being power, is because we start to feel good about our accumulation of knowledge, which is a good thing, but it is not action, it's not activity, it is not progress by itself. It's just potential. And the more accumulation we get, and another thing I like to remind people of is that we get good at what we do. What we do most is what we would be best at. So if you spend the vast majority of your time finding new information, getting new information, what you're going to become very, very, very good at is collecting information. Right? You're going to be a great information gatherer. You're going to have a great body of knowledge. You're going to have a great bookshelf. Other people get some information and then take that little bit of information and immediately start applying it, start taking action. I don't know if I can prove this, but I believe in my heart of hearts that there's way more learning in action in that actual applied knowledge than there was in the original knowledge. So why? Because you learn through experience. You actually have to do things. You do things, there's some response. It creates a dynamic. You're wrapped up in this constantly changing thing. You have to evolve. Your massively incredible, amazing brain kicks in and starts to recognize patterns, do all these different things that do not happen just when you take in an idea or concept or a definition and you memorize something. It's just potential. Knowledge is not power by itself. Applied knowledge is. If you're in your house and your house is on fire, it will burn down if you don't take action. If you're in your house and your house is on fire, your new business, it will burn down if all you do is acquire knowledge, not take action. There's more learning in the action. If you're sitting in your house, y'all don't understand me, y'all don't hear me, y'all don't want to feel this. If you're in your house of your body, right, and you're not taking action, it will be destroyed. It will be burned up. You will not save it. You will not change it, regardless of how much more you come to know. I know this is not earth-changing idea, but I know enough to know that you never know what might be a life-changing idea. So I'm sharing it. I'm trying to help inspire all of us. Because again, I'm talking to myself as much, maybe even more than I'm talking to you. To remember myself that truth is in action. Truth is in action. There's another way, somebody way more eloquent than me stated it, is that there's no such thing as undemonstrated knowledge. Let that sink in for all of you people that have read every book and everything on your bookshelf and you have all this book of knowledge and you walk around feeling so great because you have all this know-how. You don't apply any of it. Therefore, from an outside observer, from the rest of the world, from the society that you're in, from the organization that you're in, from the team that you're on, that know-how doesn't even exist. It doesn't exist until it's demonstrated. That little idea would be transformative if you take it to heart. Especially for many of us that have taken the time and made the personal investment to increase our body of knowledge. You now know things that you didn't know. So my little armchair advice would be prove it. Prove it in some capacity what you know. If it was worth it to you to make the investment to acquire the knowing, then apply it. Apply it and make it truth. Make it real. Take action. And if you're in a situation that you don't like, and you've gone out to acquire the knowledge to make a change, then apply what you know. Prove what you know. Prove that you were driven by legitimate reasons to go acquire the knowledge, right? You've learned some new things. You've acquired the skill. You've done some things to increase your body of knowledge. So the reason you did that, hopefully, is a big enough reason for you now to go apply it. I'm here to tell you, after talking to thousands of people over the last decade, there's a huge deficit between knowing and doing. In fact, I think there's a book called The Knowing-Doing Gap. But there's a huge deficit that most people carry between what they know or come to know and what they do or come to do, even in areas that they will tell you are critical to their well-being, their feeling of fulfillment, and their personal happiness. They don't apply what they profess to know. There are other people out there that apply little bits of knowledge in such a magnanimous way that everything changes for them. Because action, that's where all the power is in that action, is in the movement. So I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm going to go back to my afternoon cup of coffee. And I hope I inspired you to think through this last 90 days. 90 days, or 6 months, or 9 hours. How much of your passing time, of the time that is past, that is now behind you, did you apply to the acquisition of more knowledge, information, more know-how, versus the application, applying what you have come to know, something new that you have come to know in the last 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 hours, 6 minutes, whatever time frame you want to put around it. Just remember the analogy and make it serious enough to move you into action. That's why I like the house will burn down analogy. Regardless of what you have on your bookshelf, regardless of what classes you've been to, regardless of what you know, regardless of how great that information is and all of those books and all of that stuff, and even in your head, regardless of all the experts you have on firefighting, regardless of all the friends, regardless of all the people you're connected to on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram, regardless of how many organizations, firefighting groups you are in, regardless of how many specialty magazines you have, regardless of how many weekend seminar things you went away for, regardless of all of these things, if you're sitting in the house and your house is on fire and you don't take action, it will burn down. Not earth-changing, but hopefully life-changing for somebody. All right, guys, I'm getting back to my Monday. It's going to be a long day for me, but I am full of gratitude to be able to be engaged in a long day. Have a great day.